this is what I tell my students every day. This is in my office, and it's kind of so fortunate that Anna just asked me to talk about failure and success, because for the students, what I tell them is that the other side of failure is success, and the quest is what's important. At the end of the day, there will be something that you will be achieving, no matter how you look at those figures. If you start there, you will end up here. If you start here, you will end up there. And there has to be some part of failure, some part of success. So my stories for you are kind of about this. I'm an allergist. I'm supposed to cure allergies. Allergies are stupid diseases. You sneeze outside when you're in the spring. Maybe you have some hives. You have like a little bit of food allergy. You spit up. You throw up. But this is what got my attention when I started to be an allergist. So this is an 8-year-old boy, and he's playing soccer. He's winning the game. He eats a cookie without peanuts because he knows he's allergic to peanuts, and he starts wheezing. And he has an EpiPen, but his EpiPen is in his bag. So nobody knows where the bag is. The mom is not around. Maybe the mom is talking to somebody else. And he has a respiratory arrest. He's intubated, and he is dead within 60 minutes. So this is really a failure. So I don't want this to happen ever. I don't want this to happen ever, ever, ever more. So when I started to talk, one second, if I can do this, oops, I'm a little bit, see, I'm not, oops, sorry. So when we talk about allergies, you know, here we have like a wasp, a bee, and this is the allergy cells, and we have like what we call mast cells that are here, and when we have a peanut, all those mast cells release all those things here, and then people get cramping, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, hypotension, flushing, hives. So this is what happens when you have an allergy. But the allergy can be very, very small, very limited, or the allergy can be very, very severe. And when I started to work on allergies, I saw that, you know, those are the prime cells for allergy. When I started my fellowship, 1986, 1988, my PhD, there were 2. Now every tissue has a different allergy cell. So every tissue has a different mast cell. So we know much more about that. So what happened is that your mast cells release all those things, and those are called mast cell mediators. So lipid mediators, cytokine, I mean, this is like kind of a blurb, a scientific blurb that says when this happens, your entire body can actually have the consequences of releasing that. So, and this is the complicated stuff. So what happens when a peanut hits your mouth or somebody else? So the whole complicated thing here happens. And so when I started my fellowship at the Brigham, I was handled a little tube, and my mentor said, you know, we just have this protein here, just go ahead and clone it and find out what it does. So I went ahead and I found that there was like those little things that were on top of the mast cells, and they had those little types, whoops, sorry, doesn't. That's okay. I think it's much sure. So those were things that were on those mast cells, those deadly mast cells. And those were new things. So we said, okay, we have a new molecule. How good is that molecule? I was really, really, really intense. I wanted to have discovery. You know, as a fellow, you think that you have to discover new things. So we discovered that, we published it, and it was great. I was very, very happy. And so we discovered that this molecule had something that was called an inhibitory motif. So the minute I saw that, I said, wait a second, those mast cells that are always activating, could they be harnessed? Could we be actually inhibiting that? And I said, maybe we could do that. So I went into a quest. And the quest was, I want to change something. I want to change something. So the current dogma at the time when I started to work on this was that there were what we call inhibitory receptors in the immune system, but they all had ligands, so they were talking to other that were called MHC molecules. So that was kind of the dogma there. And so I went into my quest to see if mast cells could be harnessed through those molecules. And I found out that, I made a bunch of those cells, and I query a lot of other immune cells, and I say if they talk to each other. So when they talk to each other, they have those aggregates there. And this is like I don't know if you know Miro painting, but for me this was like as beautiful as a Miro painting. It was like all the colors and the cells intertwined. So I was so happy. I said to my boss, Dr. Austin, and my mentor, we're going to publish that. So, of course, we're going to publish that. So we sent it to a very good journal. It's called Blood. And Blood came back to us and says, this is not good enough. So I was mortified. How come this was not good enough? So I went on and I did more studies. And I said, well, what is that molecule in the mast cell? What is the name of the ligand of that? And we found that there was something that's called alpha V beta 3 that was the ligand. And we said, oh, this is awesome. So this could be really, really powerful. So I sent to my boss and I said, okay, let's publish that. And he says, okay, let's send it for publication. And another journal, Journal of Immunology. The Journal of Immunology says, you have to do like 3, 4, 5, 6 experiments. And then we did them and we came back and they said, it's not good enough. We're not going to publish that. So I was sleeping in the lab. I was having my son. My husband was hardly seeing me. So I was a little bit mortified. So we said, okay, let's do more experiments. And we proposed this model. And we said, okay, so this is, when we have mast cells that have this activating receptor, if we put that inhibitory receptor here, we can actually block allergies. We can make the allergies go away. We can block this. So we then send it to the Journal of Allergy and Clinical Immunology. So that's kind of number 3 already there. And we go from very high level to middle level to a little bit lower, but still happy, still good. And the Journal of Allergy sends back the response. It says, well, there is no precedent for that. And, we just don't think that, the experiments done are sufficient. So I got into depression. I was not sleeping. I was really unhappy about this. This was 3 years of my postgraduate life, and my husband and my kid were hardly seeing me. So one day I had this aha moment, and I said, you know what? I went to my boss and my mentor, and I said, we are going to send that to Nature. And they look at me and they say, she's lost her mind. We need a psychiatrist here. She's sleeping too little. She doesn't really understand what is Nature. And they try to calm me and they say, Mariana, it's like, Nature is above all the things that, I said, but it's true. We have a fact that nobody has actually seen before. But I really deeply felt that I believe what I had seen. I had worked very hard, I believe what I have seen, and I had a tremendous passion for the fact that maybe we could cure allergies. I thought we could do that. So I sent it to Nature Immunology, and the guys were like just looking at me like, this is not gonna work again. She might drop off, her fellowship. So we sent it, and 2 weeks later, the guys from Nature Immunology said, we love your paper. We really love your paper. This is, we've never thought that this was possible, and we think this is great. Oh, wow, that is vindication. So I was really happy. And then 2 weeks later, they send in and say, hey, Dr. Castells, we have a question for you. What about if we wanted to put one of the pictures of your confocal microscopy in the cover page of Nature Immunology? And I said, well, let me think about that, That would be too much already. So in fact, my failure was that for 3 years, I had been dreaming about this, and I was hammered to the bone by the editors of the journals, by my bosses, my mentors. I strongly believe in what I had done. So again, this was published. This is my office. And what I did with that, I continue with what I was doing, and I built something that we have now that's called drug hypersensitivity and desensitization at the Brigham. And what I did is I believe that patients who had very strong allergies, like cancer patients with chemotherapy allergies, people who have very, very strong allergies for other diseases, could actually be taking advantage of the system that I have uncovered. And I built it, and this is what we have now. So essentially, what my message to you is that failure is part of the success. It's always there. You just have to look how can you wrap around it. And most of the time, you learn more when things go wrong than when they go right. Because you have to think creatively, you have to be passionate about it, and you have to find at your center what's your strength, how you can continue, and how you can change what you actually are seeing in front of you. So please continue, please perseverate. At the end of the day, there is a tremendous light, and you are going to find it. Thank you.